welcome to Rock and Roll Shin-Soo, episode number 29. My name is Gabe Estel, and I'm here with my co-hosts Dennis Levi Leach and Jonathan Getz. How's it going, guys?
Bonjour.
Great.
Excellent. Good to see you. Good to be back. Well, let's go ahead and get right into it. We've got a nice heart of the order tonight. It's for all you heads out there. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. But yeah, I think those of you that like songs longer than 8 minutes will enjoy what we're talking about tonight.
This episode will be 3 hours long.
Right. This episode, yes. This is 2 sets. We're actually going to take a 15-minute intermission. Leave the recording on.
It'll just be us away from our cameras and computers.
Maybe we could put like some PA music in the background, right? But
my
anyway,
cat will DJ.
So, but let's go ahead and jump right into the leadoff portion of the show. I want to talk. I was able to attend a concert a couple weeks ago. And Jonathan,
way to get out of the house, Dad.
I know. Actually, it was kind of a big deal. Like, we had a free room downtown that we had to use. Like, we had like some Hyatt points.
Oh, wow.
So like we had to use it by the end of June, right? So we ended up getting a room downtown as well. A babysitter came to the room while we were watching the show. It was fun.
Wow, well, that's fun.
Yeah. So anyway, so it was kind of like a night out. But so I saw My Morning Jacket the third night of their 3-night run in Chicago at the Chicago Theater. And this was actually, they've been doing on this tour a lot of multi-night stops, but it's usually only been 2 nights. I think Chicago might be the only market that got 3 shows. So that's pretty cool. They've always treated the city pretty well. And over these 3 nights, they didn't repeat any songs.
Yeah, I saw those set lists. That was remarkable.
Yeah, they were going pretty deep. Usually night to night, they repeat a handful of songs, a handful of new ones, and then some staples as well. But yeah, these were, which I liked because they seemed to really, be rewarding people who might have gone to multiple nights or also just when they do a 3-night run like that, maybe that's going to be their approach. So yeah. I thought that was cool. And the show was really good. Yeah. They did, the new songs sounded good, but most of it was pretty distributed among all the records.
Mm-hmm.
They did,
Did you get Don Dante?
Steam Engine, which I was glad to hear. No, they did Don Dante the night before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think. They did it when they were in Chicago. So yeah, I'm a big Steam Engine fan, so I like that. And like I said, the new songs sounded good. I like the new record. So yeah, big thumbs up for me, man. I mean, they're at this point, they're a veteran band. I mean, first album, first full-length LP came out in like 99, I think, the Tennessee Fire. Yeah, something like that. So yeah, and then just really kind of started getting buzz when It Still Moves came out about 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm. But
yeah, they're a veteran band now. They're in it to win it, man.
Yeah. The longevity has been impressive.
All original member. They added Bo later, right?
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, really a stable, consistent band, and yet evolving at the same time.
Definitely. They seem like they're playing by their own rules and doing something different every album out at least. So yeah, big thumbs up. I don't really have much more to say other than it was a really solid show, and just they grow every time I see them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them in Kansas City later this summer.
Right.
Yeah. I snuck out for double. For me, it was a double bill because I was looking forward to seeing them both. But Courtney Barnett opening for Belle and Sebastian. It was Belle and Sebastian's first stop in Kansas City and ever. And,
okay.
So super stoked about that. It was at the Uptown, and then the idea that Courtney Barnett was opening was a huge plus, as her new album is one of my favorites of the year. And she came out and just rocked for 40 minutes, minimal lighting in front of a closed curtain, that hit all of Belle and Sebastian's gear, and
it was just her.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was her band. It was her trio,
all right,
a 3-piece band, and she sounded a little hoarse, but I think maybe because she played a morning show. They do these morning shows here sometimes with where you can get in for free at a bar you line up at like 7 in the morning. Betsy did it for Gogol Bordello a few years ago.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's a show. It's a full concert. It like, starts at like 8 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. So she did
I
that.
can get behind that.
Yeah. She did that, and so maybe she was a little hoarse from that, but she sounded good still, and she's got guitar chops. She doesn't play with a pick, which is always kind of jarring when a guitarist doesn't play with a pick,
right.
But really tight. I mean, at times, it sounds it can sound a lot like Nirvana at times, but I feel like she's a bit of a better lyricist. Or a different type of lyricist, I should say, not a better lyricist. So, but then Belle and Sebastian was pretty diverse. Their new stuff is kind of almost dancey, and with their old, dreamy pop stuff, we just kept going back and forth. I felt the crowd could have got a little bit more into it, but we just kind of hung back. We didn't battle the crowd to get up front. We just hung back and enjoyed it from a distance at the Uptown there. So small place. It's not hard to get a view. But no, it was a lot of fun, and that band is like a bunch of cartoon characters. I tell you, it's from Glasgow, Scotland, and
right.
It was a lot of fun.
Cool. Good deal. Well, yeah, definitely a lot of live music coming up this summer. Want to move on to baseball. Not much has changed in the week since we broadcast last. The Royals and Cubs are still good. The White Sox aren't. So there's not much more I could offer on my team's performance other than they all kind of suck. But the hot stove starting to heat up. There's a little over a month left to make trades, and now that the MLB draft has passed, that's typically when the midseason trade rumors start heating up, and one of those rumors, it's generating. I don't know how much national attention it's get, but it's generating a lot here in Chicago. Chris Sale, our ace, and even if you're not a White Sox fan, it's hard to argue that he's not one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. He
just had his 7th straight game with at least 10 strikeouts. I saw.
Did he reach his 7th? Okay, because I know he pitched yesterday, but we lost.
Yeah, he still struck out. It was the first time since Randy Johnson did it.
Yeah,
12 years ago or something.
Yeah, he's lost 3 of those games. Dude, the dude strikes out 13, 14 people, and we still lose.
Yeah, he could go 10 and 13 this year and still get tons of Cy Young votes.
Absolutely. He's kind of sort of going to have the Felix Hernandez type numbers if he stays on the White Sox. Mm-hmm. But anyway, low ERA, high strikeouts, below 500 win-loss. But anyway, he wasn't really in trade rumors until earlier this week. Everybody thought, well, the White Sox are probably going to deal Samardzija because he's a free agent. The only thing is about Samardzija, I think his value's taken a hit because he hasn't pitched that well this season. He hasn't pitched terribly. He had a good outing yesterday, I think, or the day before.
If you could visualize a trade partner, I'm trying to think. I can't even think who would want to take on Samardzija. Who could you see him going to?
Well, I mean, it's not a big investment for a team because he's gone. At the end of the year, he's a free agent. I would assume he would be. He's almost on a good team now. Put himself at the back of the rotation. I don't know. I'd have to survey the other teams to see who needs another starter.
Royals.
Okay. All right. There you go.
I don't think they'd trade him in interdivision though.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make the Royals any better. I don't know though. If the White Sox just are kind of this is a white flag thing, who cares? We're not going to catch the Royals anyway.
Well, of course the Yankees are always an option.
They need somebody. I could see that. I don't think he's going to really generate that much. I don't think we'll get decent prospects for him, but we won't get a team's best prospects for him. It'll be nothing like the Cubs got last year when they got Addison Russell.
Right. Jeez.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. You guys might have won that one, Levi. But anyway, the the Chris Sale rumors are heating up, and I kind of, when I first heard it, I was like, because he's like the best pitcher we've had in 30 years.
Yeah.
He's one of the best in baseball right now. He is a stud. But then I got to thinking about it, and if the deal was right, I would be open to it. I think a good general manager listens to all offers. You kind of have to. And with the way, if you look at his delivery, we've talked about this on the podcast before. His delivery is so funky, like he's kind of like a Tommy John surgery waiting to happen. So the logic is sell high when he's at his peak right now, and get a lot, because he's on a very team-friendly contract, so it's not like the trade partner has to take on a lot.
5 years, $32 million.
Yeah, right. I mean, we got him for a steal because he didn't have a big track record yet. He'd only pitched like a year and a half, 2 years, and so it was like such a team-friendly deal.
Yeah.
And so for a team, it's a steal. But I mean, I'm not letting go of that guy. Like, I want, like, if we're trading that guy, we're getting like a Chris Bryant type, or a Carlos Correa type, I mean, yeah.
I don't think either one of those guys are going anywhere.
I mean, you have to give me more than that.
Well, no, yeah, I think the Cubs, if they tried to swing a deal somehow for Sale, I could see them doing Baez and then like another rookie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it would be like anybody big.
It'd be perfect it'd be perfect for the Cubs too, because the Cubs really in the off season aren't going to be able to afford to take on another big pitching contract after Lester. Like, I mean, they're not going to be able to carry like Lester and Johnny Cueto. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to have like over $20 million pitchers on the team. So yeah, I mean, obviously I'd hate to see him go, but I don't know, man. For the Cubs, it would obviously I'd want Russell, or I mean, that's what I mean, like, I'm not giving him away for somebody that hasn't.
Well, and I wonder if the Cubs, who called up Kyle Schwarber this past week, he played, I think it was 8 games while we were interleague. He was our DH.
Right.
And part of me thinks, it was like them giving him a shot, but I think it could have also been them kind of like showing him off at this level, because he did do all right. I don't know if you guys saw his numbers.
No.
Says he played a total of 6 games. I thought it was 8. 6 games, 6 runs, 8 hits, a triple, a home run, 6 RBIs. So he hit 364. His OPS was 982, and he almost slugged 600. So
very nice. Yeah, it's a good. That's a good little run, man. I guess if he doesn't pan out at catcher too, you could always put him in left field if you needed.
Yeah,
to.
That's what they're basically trying to do.
Right.
Do you remember Bryce Harper was a catcher?
Yeah, he came up as a catcher.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever caught in the big leagues.
I don't think he did either.
Yeah, when we was in the minors, they converted him to an outfielder.
Yeah.
But, like, I want the next Bryce Harper if I'm giving up Chris Sale. That's what I want.
Yeah, but I have a feeling it's going to be a guy that could be, but you wouldn't have heard of him. Like, he wouldn't be the guy that you would get wouldn't be as developed as Carlos Correa or Addison Russell.
He might not be ready to take the field.
He would have been drafted in the last year or two.
Right. So I'd have to look at, kind of who's out there and who needs him. But really, he's really like the only thing we have to trade aside from Samardzija.
Do you really think he's going to go anywhere, though? I mean, like, if you had to bet a week's pay on it?
No, I think he would stay put.
Yeah.
Because I think we're at a point where we're bad, but I don't know if yet we're abysmal. To where like the whole thing just has to blow up.
Right.
I'm not sure we've got that. Yeah, we're out of it this year, and I don't see us clawing our way back by any means. But
are we still an automatic Ventura fire?
He won't. If he might last to the end of the season, but he won't last past this season. No. Yeah. I think it's just kind of the cliche of not if, but when, for
so if they don't, even if they finish like 5 games above 500 at the end of the year,
Yeah, I think like if we like didn't make the playoffs and finished in third, they'd be like,
Yeah,
we've given this guy a shot. Gave him 4 years.
How many years? 4 years.
This is his fourth. Yeah. So anyway, the Cubs. I don't really see the Cubs unless obviously they pull something off for sale. I don't really see them making like a big move at the trade deadline because it seems like the vibe I get around town just by listening to the radio and just kind of my assessment of the team is that they know they're good, but they know they're not like World Series good yet. Like they're not going to catch the Cardinals. I think Washington or St. Louis could beat them in the playoffs, like over 7 games.
Yeah.
Or even the Dodgers.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think the main goal at this point is to stay above 500, and like the top of the mountain goal would be wild card.
Yeah, right. Even if you don't get the wild card and you finish above 500, it's like nobody's going to be too pissed off. It's like
get some experience in the playoffs.
Still loaded, with talent, young talent. Going into next season, might be able to pull off a trade in the off season, so a big trade. So I don't know if the Cubs will make a move or not. I guess because who's at the back of your rotation? Is it Travis Wood still?
No, he's in the bullpen. Wada,
who's been okay, right?
He's like spotty.
Yeah, he might not be the best guy to go in like Game 7 of the playoffs or anything.
The other, I don't know, it was probably a week or two ago. Madden said he gets too technical. He needs to just throw the ball.
Right.
Like I think he sometimes like works himself up or whatnot. And then the other guy would be Kyle Hendricks.
Oh yeah, you guys have Kyle Hendricks now, right?
Yeah.
From the Phillies, right? He used to play for the Phillies.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you get something that's really enticing and you don't have to give up, the cream of the crop, which I don't think you should, you will do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The Royals, will the Royals make a move?
They need a starter, that's for sure.
Yeah. Especially if they're going to go to the playoffs, like they definitely will.
Yeah. They had Danny Duffy made it back this week to make a start, and he went almost not quite 5 innings against the Mariners, and pitched well, considering he was on a limited pitch count. So, but they need, they need him, and what's his name, Ventura, Giordano. They need Ventura to come back to his old self from last year. He's just getting off the DL right now, and so who knows what you're going to get with these guys.
Are you guys going to be in the hunt for Cole Hamels, you think, or is that like aiming too high?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't think this is a franchise that brings in a Cole Hamels.
Right.
That's too much money for them.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, you hope that the offense can get sorted out a little bit and be a little bit more consistent. And they did well against the Brewers, and then they lost 2 or 3 to the last place Red Sox here in town. Mm-hmm. The Red Sox, who haven't been that good of late, even. So it's not like they're finding their groove anytime soon. But then they got 2 out of 3 against the Mariners in Seattle, so that's moving in the right direction. So it'll be interesting, with the new rivalry with the A's. The hot A's, though, they're still well below 500.
Yeah, they picked up the pace, though.
Yeah, but they're making a move right now.
Well, the American League is just, aside from Kansas City, like, I don't think anyone thought it would shake out like it has so far.
Yeah, it's nuts. The
Royals have been,
the Rays and the Astros are in first place.
Yeah, the Rays.
Yeah.
Like, other than Evan Longoria, I don't even know who plays for the Rays.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Yeah, I know they got that one rookie.
Well, Chris Archer, that started.
Their pitcher is good. Chris Archer, their pitcher is good, and then, but a lot of other guys are hurt. Like Matt Moore's hurt, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know. I guess I should say I know a couple of their pitchers from previous success, but But yeah, that's nuts. It'll be interesting to see if they can sustain it. The Twins somehow are competitive.
Right.
Yeah, I know. And then Houston doesn't look like they're going away. I mean.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the AL is kind of screwy. Baltimore's like the teams that aren't good either. Like Seattle was expected to be huge.
Yeah. So between
I picked them to go to win the World Series.
Between the Red Sox and the Indians, or the Spiders, excuse me, and the Mariners, all teams that a lot of people pick to win their divisions, they're combined.
I picked Baltimore to win the East, and I don't know if a lot of people picked that, but Baltimore was expected to compete at least.
Well, between these three teams, the Red Sox, the Indians, and the Mariners, they're a combined 22 games under 500. Yeah, go figure.
Nuts. So it'll be interesting to see if the unexpectedly good teams remain good, and the teams that were expected to do well can play better. So we will keep our eyes on the hot stove as we near the All-Star break and then the trade deadline. One other thing I want to talk about before we get to the heart of the order is there was a piece on Gawker a couple days ago by Kelly Conaboy. Hopefully I didn't.
Conaboy? I don't know.
Conaboy, that makes sense. On Gawker, and it's kind of your typical kind of smug, snarky Gawker piece, just the tone of it.
And we say this as people who regularly visit Gawker.
And I read, read it. Yeah. It's kind of I read it every day. But so you kind of know what to expect. But anyway, she's arguing that concerts should end at 11 p.m. Like it should just be kind of the universal time that they end. And it's a pretty short read. She doesn't really lay out a lot of supporting evidence other than, just people got to work in the morning. And,
I think Kelly Conaboy is the pen name for everybody's mother.
Yeah. So briefly, I want to talk to you guys about this because maybe it's just the old man in me, but I think she's kind of onto something here because a lot of shows that I go to, if you go to them during the week, most of the time they do end at 11. Bigger shows do.
Yeah, they do. Because there's a curfew for underage.
Right, just curfew. I've had those shows where I've gone on like a Sunday night and like the band, like I saw the War on Drugs a little over a year ago, and like they didn't take the stage until like 10:30.
Yep. Yep. There's nothing worse than showing up at a small place and you want to see the headliner and you see three tiny band names underneath the headliner.
Right. You don't find out until you get there. Yeah,
that there are. You'll look on the web page of the venue and it'll just say the headliner, and then you get there and it says the two other bands that are playing.
Right. So I wasn't that offended by this piece because, I think she's on to something. I could handle most shows getting over at 11 o'clock. Kind of like start at 8:30, maybe 8:30. Just because I feel like I'm showing up for shows a lot, like right when they start now. And then just, get them over by 11. You could still fit like two set bands, within that time frame too.
Yeah,
some of them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this has to do with, are we talking about large venues? We're talking about clubs,
right? Yeah,
there's
a lot of variables.
I feel like Kelly is just like really itchy to check her Instagram feed, or his. I guess Kelly could be a man. Instagram feed.
I clicked on the picture. It's a woman.
Oh, okay. And she says, because you want to go out after the show.
Right.
To go get another drink, and it's like, okay, you are living in like this different world, I guess, where I just want to go home and go to bed after the show,
right?
Because I'm tired of standing mostly.
Right. Yeah, I gotta say I don't agree with it. That puts some kind of structural limit on the artist, and I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if I want to, I'm gonna name drop one of my new artists. You ever heard of Kamasi Washington?
I don't think so.
He's a jazz artist, and he just released an album called The Epic, and it's across 3 CDs. I forget how long it is.
Write it down.
But like, if he played it live, he would need longer than 8:30 to 11.
Yeah.
But one of the best shows I've ever seen was Government Mule and Friends at Bonnaroo, and it was basically, they started at midnight and went till dawn.
But wouldn't you say
But
though
it was a
festival setting?
That's
Yeah,
nuts.
people are camping too on site. You know, that seems circumstances seem much different.
But still,
Yeah.
midnight to dawn is a long time, regardless.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
I don't know,
why would you restrict it?
concerts are a young person's thing, man. And I'll admit that I'm getting older and I don't go to as many. But when I go, I'm fully aware that I'm going to be past 11 o'clock. I'm going to be there still.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I kind of agree with maybe the Sunday night or the weeknight thing a little bit. You know what I mean? But like, if it's a Friday or Saturday night, if they want to play till 4 in the morning, let them.
Yeah. And if Kelly wants to go get drinks somewhere else, maybe she needs to realize that part of what brings these bands in to begin with is the idea that she buys drinks there.
Right.
And not
right.
somewhere else.
Wouldn't have the show if a lot of the places didn't serve booze. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I totally understand. Don't get me wrong. I would love for, to be able to get home at a reasonable hour, but it's more the waiting for the band to come on than once they're on. I don't care how long they play, really. I've never looked at my watch to see. It's like, well, she doesn't sound real interested if she's looking at her watch. Maybe go outside and check Snapchat or something.
Right. But yeah, it's she could be onto something there. So anyway, check out the Pizza on Gawker. Now we're going to go to the heart of the order for a band that certainly played some epic concerts and are known as one of really rock and roll's premier live acts, and really kind of, I don't know, sort of almost kind of reinvented the live concert to a certain degree with the format and everything like that. So we're talking about, this is in honor of the Fare Thee Well shows that are coming up here in Chicago. This episode's for all you heads out there. So we're
this weekend in San Francisco.
In San Francisco too this weekend, yeah, right.
Where is it in San Francisco?
It's actually,
Levi Stadium.
It's actually which I think is actually in Santa Clara. It's I think it's like
Santa Clara,
outside.
yeah, south.
So yeah, they added those shows a little bit later. So I'll be curious to see the set list from those. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of their place in rock history, their place in American music, and I was going to talk a little bit about how they've been embraced by some younger bands now, like even like your non granola acts, they've been embraced by bands beyond the string cheese incident, and then a little bit about the different eras of the band. So I thought Levi and I could talk about a little bit about what we like about each of those eras. And then, I didn't tell you guys about this, but I'm going to drop it now. I've got 4 shoe selections, okay? These are like Dick's picks, only they're shoe selections.
All right.
And I chose 4 shows, one from what I think are each of the 4 eras of the band, how I would classify them at least. And there's kind of a little bit of a theme connecting them. So yeah, so we're going to talk about all that. So I was thinking in my head the other day, who is the greatest? And I know we're a podcast that tends to avoid superlatives. So, but when you think about like the greatest American bands of all time, because a lot of my very favorite bands from the 60s and 70s are British. So of like the golden era of rock, so to speak, are they the most important American contributor? From maybe the years like 64 to like, let's say like 78 or 79, like kind of.
So who would they be up against? They'd be up against the Allman Brothers.
It was the Allman Brothers, the band, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Dylan. Or I guess you're saying a band, not necessarily.
Yeah. We'll go with the band
artist.
format. Yeah. I don't think their tenure was very long, but I think the Doors deserve to be mentioned.
Yeah. Very influential.
Yeah. But with the band, I'll put the band up for songwriting. But I love, I love the band. I don't like their window of good material wasn't that wide.
You're right. Yeah.
They even put out a couple lackluster albums when they still had Robertson in the band.
After the Last Waltz, post Last Waltz.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, they toured without Robertson.
I'm sorry. You were saying, yeah.
Even with him, like Islands, right? I mean, that one's not that great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the post Last Waltz years too. I don't even know if you really count those.
No.
Because
no, you don't.
Yeah, they were. Their popularity had taken a hit too. Just if you look at
and I think you could even extend the Dead. You said to like 78 or 9. You could extend them into like the mid 80s.
Well, yeah, and that was I was just talking about the golden era there. But
I mean, they were around for like another decade after the mid 80s, but like it was kind of like the output was iffy at that point. But like 65 to 85, they're tough to beat.
Yeah. I mean, from a live perspective too. I mean, I think. When and I'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about the 80s and the Dead, they became really just the live juggernaut then, like they started playing stadiums. They started diversifying the set list quite a bit more as well. I mean, they changed their set list every night, but they weren't always taken from the same collection of songs like they were essentially in the 60s and 70s, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, they changed the set list every night, but like a lot of the shows.
Yeah, like
the 70s. You would agree in the 60s and 70s.
Like the 72 tour, it was like they were picking from like I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 songs.
Yeah, I mean, those are
and
all.
It seemed like every night was
just a rearrangement of those songs.
Those are all good songs, but even though the set lists start to kind of look the same after a while, so they seemed But by the time the 80s rolled along, they were like song catalog was just huge. So I don't know. I mean, like we talked about the bands that need to be in that conversation, but if like somebody like held a gun to my head and said, "Vote," now, like who is the greatest American band?
Well,
I would give them some consideration. I don't know if I'd pick them, but I would definitely give them.
What about Springsteen? I know it starts later than the Dead started.
It does.
I don't think Springsteen contributed as much. The Dead created a whole scene. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know granted, Springsteen painted a picture of New Jersey, and there are people now who, if you say New Jersey, it conjures up images of like Springsteen lyrics and stuff.
Yeah.
But the Dead also helped create live sound as it is. Like they were like one of the first bands that spent money on like buying nice PA equipment and like making sure it was set up right and making sure that the people around them knew how to run it right. And I mean, granted, it was all a big party, but they were serious about their sound.
Yeah.
And they don't get a lot of credit where they probably should. Like, I mean, they helped create businesses, you know what I mean? Like speaker companies like Altec Lansing and others would come to them with prototypes and stuff and be like, "Hey, what do you think of these?" And I think their impact their impact on rock, I think, is greater than Springsteen. But I can't say I don't know. I would say they're the best American band of all time, but
and the best is kind of a thorny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like
label anyway.
Yeah, it's like whatever some days Aerosmith's my favorite American band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
right.
ZZ Top.
Van Halen's going to get some of my votes. All
ZZ
right.
Top,
so,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
go ahead.
they have to be talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, also I think maybe like what stemmed from like what was the outgrowth of their music too? Like a giant concert scene, of people that followed them around the country, and then the taping community as well. You know, they pretty much gave birth to that. You know,
in the 80s, they kept Maxell in business.
Right. Yeah. So I guess just kind of this traveling community that it all became. Not a lot of other bands can really say that, you know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that doesn't really put them ahead of anybody musically, but as far as an influence and an impact.
And culturally speaking, because
yeah.
everybody knew about, you know, the Deadheads following the Dead, and
right.
You know, it was kind of an interesting thing for them to think about, even though they weren't interested in the music you know, that the general public would think about.
Right. Yeah, it conjures up an image, certainly. And I was talking to Steph about this actually as well. You know, because of like that image that it conjures up, it's also been kind of marginalized. You know, like some people like you mentioned the Grateful Dead, to a handful of people, and like they're automatically turned off just because they've got this idea of just this, you know, this tie-dyed thing, you know. And that's probably a little unfair to the band, because I think the band's audience is much hippier than the guys that are in the band. You know? I think so. Yeah, I mean, they hung out with bikers, you know, and they had Pigpen in the band. You know, I mean, it wasn't. I think the audience is much more, you know, peacenik than anybody on stage was.
Yeah.
So
I just got a Bill Kreutzmann's biography. It just came out. I got it as a Father's Day present. I got it in the mail today, signed.
Nice.
And so I'm looking forward to reading it tonight. He was always one of my favorite guys in the band.
Right.
I would always go through periods when I was really heavy into the Dead, where, you know, I would be into Bill for a while, or I'd be into Bobby for a while, or you're always into Jerry, but
yeah,
I really liked Keith as well.
We'll talk about the keyboardist here in just a minute, because that's been the one non-constant in the band's history. It's almost, if I were Bruce Hornsby, I'd be kind of nervous, you know. I mean, like they've had 4 keyboardists die.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
You know, Vince Welnick wasn't in the band. Well, neither was Godchow when he died, but you know, Pigpen, Godchow, Brent, and then Vince. Unfortunately, Vince Welnick committed suicide a couple of years ago, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a few years back, I believe.
Yeah. So, and he had a pretty documented history of substance abuse as well.
Well, and he was in the Tubes before the Dead, and I mean the Tubes were like a new wave band.
Yeah,
that they toured and partied.
Yeah, I always liked that, even though they were an established band when they lost Pigpen. You know, that would have been like 72, 73. I mean, they'd already brought Godchow in, and brought Godchow in, and Pigpen was becoming kind of unreliable at that point. They always kind of chose an unknown. You know, like Godchow was certainly unknown. Brent was totally unknown. And then, you know, Welnick was in the Tubes, which is kind of like a cult San Francisco band. But, you know, coming from kind of like the Tubes are, if anybody's not familiar with Tubes, very Zappa-esque. Their original, their earlier stuff. So Vince comes from that. So yeah, I always dug the fact that they went with an unknown until they brought in Bruce Hornsby for a handful of shows.
And you've hated them ever since.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. I just said I don't like Bruce Hornsby's music. And in the Dead, like, because I've been listening to a lot more 90s shows lately, just because when I was really into them in college, like I didn't listen to the, you know, you're not like, let's put in, you know, the 93 show first, you know, that's right. It's not really what you gravitate toward.
Yeah, it was like, yeah.
So I always liked that they brought in a keyboardist that was unknown, and that person really made their mark. So we'll move on to the eras of the band, and really kind of break them down to, you know, you got the 65 to like 72 is the Pigpen era. And then you've got the God Chow eras, which I think we need to mention that as well. There was a female in the Grateful Dead for a number of years, and she's kind of not, unfortunately. I think even though the Dead are huge, beyond Deadheads, you mentioned the name Donna Jean Godchow, and a lot of just, I think, basic music fans wouldn't know who she was.
Right.
Even people that kind of dubbed themselves classic rock fans wouldn't know.
There are some probably people who call themselves Deadheads who don't know Donna Jean.
But yeah, very very Joplin-esque voice that she had, and she was certainly an important contributor, a divisive one. I talked to a lot of people that are like, I could only handle her in limited doses. She was maybe overpowering at times. But anyway, so the God Chow era is like 72 to 79. And then you got the Brent era for 10 years, 79 to into 79, I think, to 1990 when he died. And then you've got the post Brent years where they had Welnick and Hornsby, or just Welnick. And those aren't really, some of their more memorable years. So of those eras I mentioned, Levi, I'll ask you, which one do you have a favorite of those eras?
I think if you'd asked me back when I was 18, 19, 20, I think I would have always said every day of the week the Keith and Donna era.
Right.
But as of lately, the Pigpen era has grown on me more and more. I've
like those Mr. Charlies, do you?
Yeah, and I got a record here called The Vintage Dead, and it was recorded live at the Avalon Ballroom in 1966. It came out on a label called Sunflower Records. I think this is from like 72 maybe. But they do a 18-minute in the midnight hour on here. Nice. And man, it's 1966, and I'll tell you, man, Jerry is like melting faces.
Yeah.
So
there's a good energy to those.
Yeah,
those
like
early
that.
Shows.
That early era, I think, is, if I had to choose now, I think I would pick that because I like Pigpen. Some people who there are people, like you said, that don't like Donna Jean. There are people who don't like Pigpen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know people who just, they couldn't get into the shtick of it. You know what I mean?
Like the bluesiest period.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes the freeform kind of scat Jim Morrison-y stuff, I think that sometimes like would turn people more towards liking the other stuff. But I always liked it when he would go off. He'd be like, "Hey, get your hands out of your pockets."
Yeah, right.
Be like, "I see you in the crowd. You just wanted to meet a girl tonight." Or something.
He's fun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Janis Joplin, he was one of her lovers. So that's interesting. For me, I have to say the God Chow era, because I think when I first started listening to them, like a lot of people do, I started listening to the Grateful Dead heavily my freshman year of college. I think a shitload of people can probably say that, regardless of how old they are. My friend Luke, who lived a couple floors above me, he had a bunch of Maxell XL2s. He had hundreds of tapes, and that's just kind of, that got me into it. And I also would. It also got me into some other bands as well. And the God Chow era was the first, those were like some of the first shows I heard that really resonated with me. And I would say that those are the ones like I gravitate towards, if I'm in my car and I'm listening to them or something like that.
And like, there's kind of like two God Chow eras, because they had that retirement.
Oh, right.
For like a few years. That I don't think they played any shows in like 74 and 5 maybe.
They played just
like
a handful in 75.
Yeah.
75, or they just played like a handful of shows.
I don't think they played any in 74 then. They didn't.
No, they played some in 74.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, they did.
Well, it was like almost a whole year they took off, for sure.
Yeah. You're right there. Yeah. So there are kind of two eras of that. Keith and Donna's, I'd like to say a little bit of trivia. Keith and Donna's last show it was on the day I was born.
There you go.
Wow.
2/17/79, Oakland.
Wow. Do you have that show?
It's on archive.
Yeah.
I don't. I used to have it on disc. I used to have like a CDR of it. Speaking of which, for any of you, if you haven't discovered archive.org, and I know all of us have, but if the audience has it, I mean, if you want your live Grateful Dead, there it is.
Well, and you
pretty
can
much got
download
about every show.
An app on your phone called Listen to the Dead.
Right.
And it has,
pretty much everything.
The same thing.
Yeah.
I've books of, burned CDs that I accumulated while in college. Four books, and it's just, I'll go through and I'll pick out what I want to keep and I'll rip them and then I'll just recycle the rest. It's funny how where the technology has brought us, because it's like, do I want to keep the show? It's like, well, I can find it online anytime I want.
Right.
It's out there.
Yeah. So the God Chow era would be my favorite. Some of their most famous shows, the 77 tour are from that era.
I think when I was younger, I couldn't get into the Brent era.
Neither.
For some reason, I really couldn't. But like as I've gotten older, I can appreciate some of the shows, and you can definitely tell there are nights that they were really happy to have him, because he basically sings some of the songs when Jerry doesn't know the words, or because they had a similar voice. Like he would help do backup vocals with Jerry a lot.
He was a really good presence in the band.
Yeah,
as far as he was a glue,
energy.
Sort of. Yeah. He always kept it together too. Like despite the fact that the guy died of a speedball overdose.
There are some videos and concert footage of him, man, where he looks.
Oh, he looks haggard.
He looks choked up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a skeleton with a beard. Yeah. But Levi, we park our Volkswagen buses in the same garage here, because I'm starting to appreciate the Brent era more. I think my wife actually said, because we were talking like a while back ago, like what we didn't like about it was he kind of at times made it sound like carnival music a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was he was a victim of the era of technology.
Right. He was an
80s
what I mean?
keyboardist. Anybody who played keyboards in the 80s, your stuff sounds dated now.
Right.
Yep.
Right. But as I would say just with over the last year or so, I've been listening to more of the 80s and 90s, mainly the 80s shows, and gaining a new appreciation for them. Set list wise, I think it's their best set list. Because they were the collection of the pool of songs grew just exponentially when Brent joined the band. I think set list wise, those shows are much more interesting than the previous couple eras. And then the 90s stuff, it was really getting hit or miss at that point, particularly the last couple tours. Now, I know you're not as into him as Levi and I are, but you know the distinctions between the eras of the band. Do you have a favorite era?
You're right in that I'm not nearly as versed. And we went, let's see, when you were out at Western Illinois, we went to a show. It was a Dead cover band that we went and saw.
Yeah, Uncle John's band.
Was it Uncle John's band? Right. Yeah, it was in a forest, of course. It was in the woods in a park or something.
There's probably like 8 Dead cover bands called Uncle John's band.
And they're all playing in forests right now.
Yes, right now. Right. And so they played one really. At one point, they played a funky song. It's like, man, this is, I'm grooving on this pretty good. And you had to tell me what it was, and it was Shakedown Street. So
nice.
I guess you could say I'm part of the God Chow era as well. And between that and then actually, obscurely enough, I've been kind of attached to the Jerry Garcia band stuff from the early 90s.
JGB stuff's good, man.
Yeah. Between that and actually his stuff with David Grisham, I've listened to much more of that than anything.
Cats Under the Stars.
Wow.
Nice.
It's a great record.
Yeah.
It's got Ruben and Charisse on it.
Oh yeah. Yes, you have that. You used to. I know. I don't know if you still do. You have that double disc Jerry Garcia band from like 90 or 91, something like that.
Yeah.
That's a great. That Tangled Up in Blue on there is
killer. Yeah. Actually, that album kind of means a lot to me.
Yeah, it's a good one, man.
Yeah, I had that. That was one of my 10 CDs for a quarter or whatever. Columbia.
Was it?
Oh, really?
Yeah. My initial Grateful Dead CDs, like the first 30 that I had, were all Columbia and BMG. Like I did one for each of them. like I got one for each company. That way I just got like all these tons of CDs, and then you were like, I was like 14 or whatever. I was like, Mom, now I need like $50 to buy 2 more CDs.
Because that's how that racket works.
Color me bad. All right. But anyway, Shakedown.
The Merle, I gotta
mention
the Merle, the Jerry Garcia and Merle Saunders stuff.
Is good too.
I love it, man. There's 2 or 3 records of them together.
Right.
No, I haven't heard it. I'll check it out.
Yeah. They do. They cover Stevie Wonder's "I Was Made to Love Her." Yeah, it's really good.
Nice. I also think he's among Deadheads. Obviously, he's a god at this point, but and he's been so active as a musician even after Jerry's passing. Like Bob Weir deserves to be mentioned, like among like some of America's greatest rock musicians. I think I really do. Just how much he sang in the band and
well,
how active musician he is. Yeah, he seems like a really cool dude too. Anyway, go ahead.
The songwriter aspect, man.
He's a great songwriter.
Anything, he should be put into some kind of a songwriters
Hall
of Fame or something, because I mean, I love all those songs that he wrote. You know what I mean? A lot of them are kind of like little mini epics.
Oh yeah, Let It Grow. Yeah,
Cassidy.
Yeah, Weather Report Suite. So my point is, outside of the world of Deadheads, he's underrated, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. Among just your rock and roll fans, your classic rock fans, even. Yeah, he deserves. His name should be up there with some of the mentioned among the greatest songwriters.
Were they in the inaugural Hall of Fame class?
No, they got in like the early 90s.
Okay. Jerry was still like 93, I think.
Yeah, Jerry was still alive. Yeah, they got in like 92, 93, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, and we got to mention, while we're talking about eras, there's always been Bill Kreutzmann, the drummer. He was the original drummer, and then later on they got Mickey Hart.
Right.
And then Mickey Hart's dad screwed the band over and stole a bunch of money, and so they got mad at Mickey Hart and kicked him out of the band for a while.
And then brought him back, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Way to go, Mickey Hart's dad.
Jeez.
Prick.
Blame it on Mickey Hart's dad. Different eras, and I think that all of that just adds to the lore, that there are distinct eras that are much different, one from the other.
What are the people that only listen to the greatest hits? What are they missing?
It's a good question. They're missing, I think, hearing those songs. I think how the band intended you to hear them. I think whether it's the songs on Skeletons from the Closet or songs that maybe the casual fan might not be that familiar with. When let's say, for instance, you mentioned the Who, even though they were great live, I don't think of the Who live. You know what I mean? I think of like all the albums I love.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Grateful Dead. It's like, that's a live band. I just I
right.
picture them on stage. You know what I mean? I don't.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny to even like show a studio album is an odd thing when.
And I think a lot of their studio work, I think, is better than people give it credit for.
Yeah,
I do. I think.
Well, and
Terrapin's well recorded too. I think.
I think they kind of were, victims of what they were going up against. You know what I mean?
Right.
They were in an era when everybody was putting out great records. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like. If you go and look at a top 40 from like 1967 or 68, it's like, wow, there was a lot of really good music out.
Yeah.
And they still had their own hits, ultimately culminating in Touch of Grey, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was
Grey
the biggest for sure.
Touch of Grey was it was odd, just kind of how that took off,
Yeah.
MTV helped, it had
Right.
Betsy's a big fan of the video. Betsy talks about the video
is
a
fun.
lot.
Oh yeah.
The video is really
Skeletons.
fun. And that's the point, I think that was like 87 Touch of Grey came out, 88.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you're right, 87.
That only added to their popularity. At that point, like they could fill a stadium. Like they didn't have any trouble filling Soldier Field.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, multiple nights at some of those places.
Right. Did they ever play Arrowhead? Gets? I assume they probably did.
I couldn't say for sure.
Yeah. But yeah. So you asked me, what I think those fans are missing. How I think the band probably wanted those songs to sound, but also just I know this sounds like oozing with hippiedom. They're missing the music really taking you out there, and also I think to be a live music fan to a band that is not afraid to stretch out its music, it requires a certain patience maybe that casual fans might not have.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's not like the casual fan that knows Truck and is gonna be like space, yes,
Right.
Here's 10 minutes of them noodling, right?
Oh no, yeah. I mean, the Grateful Dead,
and I can only sometimes I skip space on shows,
right? I mean, the Grateful Dead are an accessible band, but if you really want to get to the heart and be a diehard Grateful Dead fan, you're going to meet a lot of people along the way that are going to, I don't know. You know what I mean? There's a lot of serious Deadheads out there.
Oh yeah.
Some
a little too serious.
The guy at the show that has the cardboard sign that says 1,148 days since the last San Francisco Dark Star. Right. It's like that guy's serious.
No, there's some major geekdom among the audience. I feel like I bumped into a lot of people in college or just people at shows who kind of had a little bit of tunnel vision, like they didn't really step outside of the jam band kind of. And I'm not saying hey, I'm better than them because I really like the Replacements a lot, I'm not saying that.
It's definitely one of those scenes that if you get into it, it can swallow you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a way for kids to totally escape what was going on around them.
Sure.
And it was all they got into was that scene and that jam band scene and following bands and selling garlic grilled cheeses.
Right. And then and then making arguments that the Disco Biscuits are really important and things like that. But anyway, so with all due respect, I'm sure the Disco Biscuits are really
nice. And
Acoustic
Hookah,
yeah, right. No, hey, I saw Acoustic Hookah multiple times, so I've got my late '90s, early aughts jam band wounds, So anyway, and it's not to say those bands are awful. They're not. It's just what I mean. I don't listen to them anymore, not except for a handful of them. But anyway, so I wanted to just mention 4 shows that I've just kind of found over the last few weeks. We'll call them shoes selections, if you will, and we'll post these, the links to them. They're all on archive.org, so you can find them there, but we'll post the links.
And we can also find the Arrowhead 1978 show on archive.org.
So they played Arrowhead.
They did play Arrowhead.
Cool.
Okay. Wow. Okay. 78.
Nice.
Them? As just a headliner, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Huh.
That totally reminds me that when you said stadium again, it may be the only time I use the words cool and Busch Stadium at the same time, but at Busch Stadium, the Cardinals this year, it's I think within the next month or so, or actually it could be in September now that I think about it. They're doing a Grateful Dead night where you get this limited edition Grateful Dead shirt, and it's got the Steal Your Face with the Cardinals logo. And on the back is all the concert dates of the shows they played in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, they did the Fox Theater multiple times.
I was curious as if it would have. I think they played Carbondale, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Yeah, they did. The college thing. I mean, they played a lot of college towns. I mean, that was. If you probably look at tour itineraries, they're their college town stops might be more frequent than other bands. I could be wrong, but they played, of the Illinois schools, they played Champaign, Carbondale, and they played ISU. And I think they played DeKalb as well. They never played Western, or they never played Springfield or Peoria. That I've found, at least. So
apparently this Arrowhead show is taped by Robert Wagner. I didn't realize he was a fan.
Nice.
Oh, but anyway, I want to share 4 shoe selections with you. And I talked about a theme that tied them together. I didn't realize this until I looked at it later. These are all kind of smaller market shows, you know.
Okay.
The Dead, obviously, you know, a lot of epic shows, famous shows in San Francisco, a lot of famous shows in New York. You know, in the 80s, they were always playing Madison Square Garden. But these shows are all smaller markets. So I've got one here. The first one I like a lot is 12/28/69, and that's in Hollywood, Florida.
Nice.
Really good Pigpen era show. You know, 69. They just played Altamont, I think, a couple weeks before. So they were kind of recovering from that, I guess. And it's just a really good energy. The Hard to Handle on it rips. The Cold Rain and Snow is like really upbeat, you know. They kind of picked up the tempo of it a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like that one a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a really good recording of it on Archive too, which I'll provide the link. So yeah, Hollywood, Florida, 12/28/69. That's kind of my Pigpen era selection. And then moving on to the Donna and Keith era, this is kind of a sentimental choice. I've got Normal, Illinois, 4/24/78. I mean, how could I not pick the Central Illinois show? But
Right.
Aside from sentimental value, Donna sounds really, really good on this show. She sounds, I haven't heard all of her shows, but it's one of her best vocal performances. I think she just really blends in really well. So yeah, Normal, 4/24/78 is great.
And that's one of the things I've noticed with some of the Donna and Keith shows. Like on some nights she was mixed really well, and then on other nights it's like her vocals are louder than Jerry's.
Oh yeah,
Weird.
some of those playing in the bands, she just takes over the whole thing.
She Yokos them.
Yeah. She's got a couple of Yoko moments.
I'm only slightly familiar yet. If you say playing in the band, I can hear it immediately what you're talking about.
Yeah. So 4/24/78 from the Godchow era. Moving on to the 80s, this is Augusta, Maine. So small, definitely a small market there. 10/12/84. Just a really good Brent show, you know. I like the set list a lot of this one. Really good recording too on Archive. So yeah, 10/12/84 from Augusta, Maine. And then for the 90s, the one I found that stood out to me, I think this is just Vince. I don't think Hornsby's on it. It's 3/25/93, and that's in Chapel Hill. So it's at the Dean Smith Center there on campus. So near the end of the Jerry of the band, really.
Yeah.
And like I said, the good shows within those last probably 3 or 4 tours can be few and far between. So
what was that one you mentioned the other day to me? The one with Clarence Clemens. It was good.
90. I don't remember, but it's in either the late 80s or early 90s. And yeah, they've got a show where Clarence Clemens sets in for pretty much half the show. So all you East Street fans out there, check that one out.
Branford Marsalis show is excellent. I have it on.
Yeah. He came out a few times with them.
He did. Yep.
Yeah. So I liked when they brought in a jazzy, a jazz musician, sax as well. they did a lot of cool stuff with guests. They did those shows with the Blues Brothers, back in the late 70s. So yeah, really cool. And they they typically had some good openers too. Crows opened for them one show, 95.
Really?
April 7th, 95. Yeah. Last spring tour.
Right.
Yeah.
And would that have been Amorica?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Just that one stop. It was in Tampa.
Huh.
Yeah, at the
magical night in Tampa.
At the Buccaneers Stadium, yeah. The Dead show from that night isn't that great. But the Crows show the Crows set-list is solid. Didn't come out and play with them. No collaboration on
Yeah.
it. But anyway, so yeah, those are my picks.
Nice.
One from each era. So the shoe selections.
Okay.
So check them out. None of them are really famous shows, but they're all kind of nice nuggets in the catalog.
None of us are going. Is that correct?
I'm going.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you got tickets.
Yeah. Steph got an email Monday, said they've been shipped. They haven't. So we should probably talk about that a little bit as well. Just the anticipation of it. I'm surprised. I guess this just reinforces the idea that if you attach a label to something, people gravitate towards it. I've said gravitate way too many times tonight.
Had noticed.
Yes. Need to get the thesaurus out. With how active all four band members, particularly Phil, have been over the last 10 years or 20 years, now since Jerry died, I'm surprised the demand has been this high for the shows.
Yeah.
With the demand for these, they could have. They could have played a week at Soldier Field, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that helped put it over the top was the tray.
I think that helped. I also think just calling it the Grateful Dead helped too. I think if this they would have gone by the other ones or the Dead, right? Because they toured about I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago as the Dead.
Oh, so they're actually going under the Grateful Dead.
I thought they were just
the first time they've gone under the moniker since
they played Soldier Field.
Since they played Soldier Field 20 years earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
So because they played as the Dead when they played with Warren Haynes a few years ago.
Right.
So yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. As someone who likes, I think like the Fish conversation is for another podcast, but as someone who appreciates Trey, I wasn't offended by the choice, and I think it's he's played with the members of them, but not really that extensively. So I think if they would have gone with Warren Haynes, or they would have gone with Jimmy Herring or Steve Kimmock or somebody like that, it would have just been, in my opinion, too safe of a choice. Yeah. It wouldn't interest me as much. It really wouldn't.
Over under one Fish song. What are you taking?
Won't play it.
You'll say under? No Fish songs.
No,
all right.
No way.
All right.
So
yeah. Cool. Well, so it's 3 nights.
3 nights. Yeah, I'm going to all 3 nights. Yeah, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of July. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big deal. Yeah, I would assume celebrities are going to this and things. I'm sure at least Phil Jackson will be there.
Will the Stanley Cup appear?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
I can see it. It's there.
Yeah, I could see it too. I could see Quinville coming out some ugly Blackhawks tie-dye.
Yeah, Quinville and Bill Walton come out together.
Yeah, right.
I could see Quinville and Walton hanging out, and maybe throw Phil in there too, man. Phil Jackson, Quinville, and Walton.
Phil Jackson will definitely be there, and so will Bill Walton.
Yeah.
I don't know about Joe Quinville, but we'll see. Yeah. So I'm excited. And
did they allow camping?
No.
They didn't give in, huh?
No.
Where would they have camped?
In the parking lots. People were
okay.
Can we they were trying to get it to where people could camp
on
site.
Right. They were gonna do
an old Grateful Dead show, basically.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the hotels downtown are just gone.
Well, yeah.
That and you combine it with just kind of general Chicago
I was gonna say it's not.
Summer
I'm sure it's not the only thing going on in
Yeah,
town.
right.
either.
Conferences, whatever.
Yeah, over the
What
4th.
else? It's
Boy.
the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's going to be a party, definitely. I mean,
yeah.
it's 3 days down at the lake. It's should be fun, and
It's gonna be a shit show.
Yeah. I will certainly report what I remember for our listeners when I get back.
We want lots of voice memos, just drunken stupor voice memos.
We'll see. Yeah. So see what, trying to think if there's any song. Maybe when Phil sings, that'll be time to go take a leak or something. I don't know. But anyway, just a box of rain, just a box of pee. All right. So anyway, no, I'm kidding. I like this. Phil's voice will test a fan's patience. But anyway, so let's go ahead then and move on to our recommendations for music. I obviously I kind of get a bonus because I recommended four shows, 4 bootlegs for everybody.
We'll let you recommend another album.
That's it. That's all you get.
Right. No. So I'll just get mine out of the way here because I don't have a ton to say about it. This is the first time I've ever probably recommended. This is actually a label that specializes in kind of like chill electronic music. It's called Claremont 56. And the reason I bring it up is because I think it would be the type of electronic music that like a lot of people like me who wouldn't think of liking that would. It's something that I just kind of like discovered. I put it on when I started studying or when I'm at work and I'm going to be at the computer for a long time. And it just
Chill,
it's really soothing, and it's some of it's kind of a little more up tempo, but it's like really good work music. And I checked out some of the artists that are on the label because there's a compilation called like 5 years of Claremont 56. I think it's a European. I think they're British. I think it's a British label. But yeah, I checked out some of the other acts on it, and I really dig their stuff too. It's kind of in the same vein, it's just really kind of chill stuff that you can put on.
I have a couple albums like that.
Yeah.
One is by a band called 07.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is by a band I'm sure you heard of called Air.
Yeah, right. Well, these, just to mention a couple of the artists that are on the label that I think about, there's a guy, I think he is Swedish. His name is Piers Thomas.
Okay.
And he's pretty good. And then there's a group called Mudd, M-U-D-D, and they've actually combined a little bit of guitar work in it as well. And I think they're Scandinavian as well. Mm-hmm. Everybody on it is European. And it's just really soothing music. Like when I say soothing, I don't mean it's like something you fall asleep to either. It's got enough of a tempo to keep you going, but at the same time, it's not. It's not. Yeah. It's not like the crazy club.
It's a productive soothing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
It's like I could get my teeth clean to this kind of music
absolutely.
or something.
You can sit down and it's check an email music. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how else to put it. But it's I've dug everybody that's on the label, so check out some of those artists too.
Yeah.
Claremont 56. Anybody on that label, I think it's pretty good.
Cool. Very cool. Tonight, my recommendation is I got a 45 just today at the store, and it's a promo copy. It's got the mono version on one side and the stereo on the other, so it's a radio promo copy, and it's Wilson Pickett doing "Fire and Water" by Free.
Ooh.
And
nice.
I'd never heard this. I had no idea he had covered this song. It's from 1971. It's on Atlantic Records, and it's excellent. It's a great version of it. And I've always liked Wilson Pickett, and so when I saw it, I saw "Fire and Water," and then underneath it, I saw Fraser Rogers, and I'm like, really? I was like, it just blew me away because I had never heard that he had covered that song.
Yeah. Cool.
That is a killer. That's one of my favorite opening songs of any album.
Yeah.
So yeah, I highly recommend it. I'm sure it's probably on YouTube. I haven't checked.
Cool.
Nice.
But yeah,
Cool.
Wilson Pickett, Fire and Water.
Hell yeah.
All right. Probably might not be on iTunes, but yeah, we'll try to find it for the website. Mine is a recent release in the last couple weeks. Patrick Watson, Love Songs for Robots. And I listened to it once, and I was like, okay, that's enough to save in my RDO queue. And then I just kept going back to it, and it's kind of a single song can sway from like Grantley Buffalo to Jeff Buckley to David Bowie, just in a single song. And kind of Anthony and the Johnsons at times, Arcade Fire at times, a little bit, just real subtly, not the bombastic.
And where's this cat from?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But it's Secret City Records, and I think he might be Canadian. Okay. Because there's a Canada logo. Because Canada is always proud of their musicians, and they help fund their music. They're musicians in Canada, and so whenever they do, they put a logo on the back that says, like product of Canada.
Nice.
Yeah, and so Patrick Watson, Love Songs for Robots.
Cool.
We'll check that out. Excellent. Well, you can check us out, on our website, rockchew.com, or you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at rockin. That's in as in, I really need one here.
New Order.
Yeah, that's in as in New Order, definitely.
Blue Monday.
Right. So rock in as in New Order, chew. You can check us out on Instagram there and Twitter. Also check us out on Facebook as well. Like our page. Please tell all of your friends to like our page. And we will see you soon. So again, that's rockchew.com. Thanks for listening, everybody.
See ya.
Have a good night.